Now, now that we know how to get the Z-score, right? We learned that yesterday. We're going to use that for probabilities. Remember the empirical rule that we also call the 68, 95, 99.7 rule? Remember this figure? Like this is pretty similar. My mu, my average was in the centered. Remember that I used to say between my mu and then 1 sigma was 34%. Remember this? And this was 34% over here, and then so on and so forth. Well, that was an approximation. There's some actually decimals there. And then when we dealt with this, it was the idea if you go one whole sigma. But what if you don't? What if you only go up to here? Let's say that's a straight line, okay? What if you just go up to there? You don't go the whole sigma. You don't go a whole standard deviation. You go part of it. And then you want to calculate from here. You want to calculate this probability. Well, the probability is basically the area under the figure. But in this case, I did not go the whole sigma. I just went part of it. I didn't go the whole standard deviation. I just went part of it. Now, the part of it, that was our Z-score. Remember how yesterday our Z-scores were decimals? Well, that's how many sigmas did you advance. So let's say my Z-score was 0.9. This is how this thing looks like, 0.9, right? It's not the whole standard deviation. It was a little bit less. Now, let's actually take a look at this, the bottom part. Now, find the probabilities that Z is less than a negative 1.83. Okay, so that is somewhere about here. Negative 1.83, right? It's almost a negative 2. Less than. Okay. So I want to find out how much is that. Okay. For these three questions at the bottom, let me just do my figures. I'll figure it out in a minute. I'll give you guys the probabilities in a minute. Now, on my second example, Z is greater than 1.42. 1.42 will be about here. So I'm looking at something like this. Again, I'll come back to get the answers on this. And then my Z is in between a negative 2 and 1.53. 1.53 is about here. So for today, we're going to see there's a probability that it's our area. Our area is less, it's to the left, it's less than. It is to the right, it is greater than, or it is in between two values. Now, for us to be able to figure this out, let me do the one on the center first, okay? Now, for us to be able to figure this out, notice how my decimals that I gave you, they have two decimal places. Now, for this, I'm going to be using, let me share with you guys. I'm going to be using this chart right here. Okay, how do we read this? This is for the Z-scores. On the left side, it's going to give me up to the first decimal point. The second decimal point is on the top. For example, if I was to connect this one, you guys see how it's 1.2? And then with this one, right where they meet, remember my number on the top is my second decimal value. That is my number 1.23. Oh, okay. So we're learning how to read this. Now, what if I have to do, let's do this one right here. This is 1.9 and this is 1, right? Where they meet, This is my probability for 1.91. Now, these probabilities are always to the left of, okay? To the left of 1.91. I remember the one in the middle was 1.42. Now, let me look at my example that I was looking. So 1.4, then my 2, they meet right here. 1.42. Okay, now what does this graph tell me? That's from 0 to Z, to the right of it, okay? 1.42 gives me 0.4222. Okay, so let me come back to my work here. Remember how it told me 0.4222? Remember that? Okay, but that was, let me do that in blue. That was this. Not what I needed. And guess what? To the left of it, the other half, that's 0.5. So can I say all the blue together is 0.9? So 0.9222. That's what the whole blue means. You're like, wait a minute. Okay, let me go back in pieces. This little piece that I got a little darker, that's 0.4222. Remember, I got that from my table. But then I said, this right here, it is 0.5. So combined, all of this combined is 0.9222. Okay. So you guys might be wondering, Mr. Leon, so do you mean that when we cut it here in the center, so let's say I cut it right here at 0, everything to the left of 0 is 0.5? Yes. Everything to the right of 0 is 0.5? Yes. Okay. Now, I'm not interested in the blue. I'm actually interested in the red. How am I going to get the red part? I know the blue part is 0.9222. Well, it's easy. What we're going to be doing is we're going to subtract 1. Well, the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to go 1 minus 0.9222. Because the blue and the red combined is 1. I just want the red. Okay, so 1 minus 0.9222 is going to give me 0.0778. Nice. The table on the chart, it gives us from 0 and then goes to the right. How many places does it go? Okay, let's take a look. Now, my first example, Z is less than negative 1.83. Oh, let's take a look at my table. Remember, let me bring this up over here. Okay, so I'm looking at negative 1.83. I don't quite have negatives here. I see negative 1.8 is right here. And then my 3 is here. So 1.83 gives me this, 0.4664. So from 0 to 1.83 gives me 0.4664. Okay, let me come back here. Might be like, okay, why did that happen? I said from 0 to 1.83, it gave me, what was it? Do you guys remember? Yeah, it was 0.4664. Just gonna write it up here, 0.664. That was it, right? Yep, that was it. Okay, so what does this figure tell us? That's how much this area is. Huh, and not what I needed. So can I say it on this other side? This is also 0.4664. Yeah, I can say that because it reflects on the other side. Oh, interesting. Let me take a look at this part. Notice how that's only half of our figure, right? The whole graph. Remember, the probability is the area under the graph. I know probability is 1. I'm just looking at half of it. So I'm looking at half of it. So I'm going to go 0.5 minus, I'm interested in the red. So let me subtract the blue. 0.5 minus 0.4664. And that's going to be my answer. So I'm going to go 0.5 minus 0.4664. Let me use a calculator if necessary. So that's going to give me 0.0336. Okay, that's not that bad. How about this one, Mr. Leonzo? How about when there's two numbers in between? Okay. Let me do the 1.53 first. Let me bring out my table here. So 1.53, so the 1.5, 1.53 is this one. So 1.53, I'm going to use the number 0.4370. So 0.4370. Let me write it down, 0.4370. What's that part? That is just this part. Okay, so I got part of it. Now the other one, the -2. Let me come back to this graph. I don't have the number quite, the negative sign, but -2, it will be like positive 2.00, right? So 2.00. So that's 0.4772. So 4772. Let me write that down here, 0.4772. Let me make sure we got it right. Yeah, 0.4772, okay. That is this side. Huh. So shouldn't I just combine them? Shouldn't I just add those two? So 0.4772 plus 0.4370 is gonna give me 0.9142. Easy, right? Beautiful. We have to use the table that I'm giving you. Okay. Now let's take a look at this thing right here. Ooh, I have to figure out the z value. So the area here is 0.0630. Huh. If I'm looking at this right here, I know to the left of it, so if I'm looking at this whole thing right here, to the left of it is 0.5. Right? To the left of the center, to the left of my mean, the whole thing is 0.5. And let me subtract 0.0630. So that means this area right here, it is 0.437. Huh. Let me see on my table what z value gives me 0.437. So let me come back here. So 0.437. Where is that? Oh, I found it. It's right here. 0.4370. What's my C-score there? It's 1.5 and 3. So 1.53. All right, let's go back to our question here. Okay, so I know my Z-score is 1.53. Now my question to you is it positive 1.53 or negative 1.53? Yeah, in this case it's negative because it went to the left of the center. Remember, our average is in the center. This one went to the left, so it's negative 1.53. Okay, cool. Now here, my second probability. Ooh, let me cut it right here in the center. I know this whole thing is 0.5. So I'm going to go 0.5 minus 0.2981. So this area right here is 0.2019. Let me go back to my table here. Let me clear it out. Let me find on my probability 0.2019. Where is that? Oh, it's right here. I found it. 0.2019. What's my C-score there? 0.5 and 3. So that's 0.53. Okay. 0.53. So let me go here. So my C-score is 0.53. Positive 0.53 or negative 0.53? Positive. Because my C is to the right of my center. Okay. Oh, now this one. Okay, my center is right here. And it went the same distance to the right and the same distance to the left. The whole thing is 0.5035. So let me cut that in half. 0.5035. So that means that each half, this half and this half, is 0.2054. Right, I cut it in half. Let me see, 5035 divided by 2. Oh no, I got this wrong. Let me see. So 0.5035 divided by 2 is 0.25175. Okay. 25175. Now, let me go here. Let me go to my table here. So, matter of fact, let me remind you. I'm writing the number 0.25175. You guys might be like, oh, you have a problem. All of our numbers are 4 decimals, not 5 decimals. Okay, so which one is closest to it? We're gonna say this one right here. So 0.68. So my Z-score is 0.68. So here it is 0.68, and here is negative 0.68. Cool, that was nice.